NFL free agency is right around the corner. We see deals getting made already for some NFL quarterbacks, and I can't help but wonder, do the Lions need to get ahead of their issues of a contract with Jared Goff and just pay him now? No, absolutely not. And I'm going to tell you why right here on the DSN News Desk. What's good, Detroit Sports Nation? I am Eric Vincent, your host here at the DSN News Desk. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time and support because NFL free agency is right around the corner. We're seeing a lot of crazy money get thrown around the way, a lot of interesting deals happening, and it puts the Lions in a very interesting situation with their starting quarterback, Jared Goff. Detroit Lions are in a position where they're looking at a possibility of having to extend Jared Goff sooner than later. And looking at the money that was just dealt around to quarterbacks like Derek Carr and Daniel Jones, it's time for the Detroit Lions to decide where Jared Goff fits in their future plans. Daniel Jones just signed a deal, 4 years worth $160 million with about $94 million roughly guaranteed. Derek Carr just went to the New Orleans Saints, agreed to a deal to go to the South, and he's looking at a deal of 4 years with about $150 million valued and $100 million guaranteed in the deal. Now, for the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff has 2 years left on his contract. Both of those years, roughly about $20 million. And they're now in a position where they're going to have to decide where Jared Goff fits in terms of what their future plans are. And in terms of the fan base, there's one side that's saying, you know what? Jared Goff has done everything that we've asked him. He's exceeded his expectations. He looks like a franchise guy. Let's pay him now and take care of it and keep him for the future. And then there's another side that's saying, maybe we should take a look at some more options. Maybe we might want to invest something in the future. Maybe we want to get aggressive and find somebody else. There's a lot of discussions in terms of what we should be doing with Jared Goff. Where I fall on it, I'm not paying Jared Goff the money that people think that he deserves. I'm not. I'm absolutely not. Because I don't think people are realizing how much it's going to cost to bring back Jared Goff. Even paying him this year, again, I wouldn't want to pay him $45 million plus. And that's what these Daniel Jones and Derek Carr are looking at right now. I don't want to pay that to a Jared Goff. He's a good player. He's a good quarterback that has some moments, but I question what his future is with this team. He's good when things are perfect around him, not the best quarterback on the road, not very good at improvising. And to me, I think there's a ceiling there with him. I think there's a ceiling. Now, be very clear. I'm not saying get rid of him right away. I'm comfortable and content with the idea of him being a starter for this coming season, maybe even next season after that. You're playing with a value deal with him only having to get paid $20 million per at that point. But be very clear. If the Lions ball out next season, the Lions get to the playoffs, win the division, win 12 games, and show the strides that we believe that they can live up to in terms of expectation, you're looking at paying Jared Goff roughly about $50 million per. He's going to be looking at a deal roughly about 5 years with $250 million worth on the value with maybe about close to 150, 130 guaranteed. I'm not a fan of that. He's going to be looking at a bag that Joe Burrow is probably going to get from the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not trying to pay Jared Goff that type of money, man. I'm really not. He's a good player, but I do think there's a cap and a limited ceiling for what he can do. To me, I believe you can make the case and the argument that Jared Goff's not, even as a quarterback, you can make the argument and the case that he's not the most valuable piece to this offense. You can make the case that it's the run game. You can make the case that it's Ben Johnson's creativity, not necessarily the skill set and the talent of a Jared Goff. Like, I don't think he's out here making all the receivers and the players around him so much better. I don't see that. I do not see that with Jared Goff. I see a guy that operates within the system. If he has time, he can find pieces and he can find players to get the ball to. But outside of that, I honestly feel like his skill set is somewhat replaceable. I think in the NFC, it's getting a little bit more inflated because it's not a lot of great NFC quarterbacks in the NFL right now. There's Jalen Hurts, And that's about it right now. There's not a whole lot of other QBs that I'm buying into. I mean, are we sitting up here calling, Dak Prescott a superstar quarterback? No. I'm looking at the NFC West. Are there a whole lot of guys right in there? No. Kyler Murray, I think he's overrated. Matthew Stafford is dealing with injury concerns. Seattle has Geno Smith, who's good, but I wouldn't call him elite. The NFC South is littered with terrible quarterbacks. The NFC North doesn't have a lot of great quarterbacks. I think a lot of them are overrated. I'm not seeing what people are seeing in Jared Goff. I think he's shining in a crop of bad quarterback play. And that's okay. I'm not mad at that. And again, I'm okay with using him in the time in the window that the Lions have to be contenders, which I think is maybe 2 to 3 years. So if you squeeze out the best years of Goff in these next 2 and then find a way from up under him after that, I'm completely going to be happy with that. I don't want to be paying Jared Goff nowhere close to a $50 million contract. Knowing that I think that his skill set is somewhat limited, I don't think it's worth it. A big pushback in the conversation has been drafting a quarterback. A lot of people who are super supporters of Jared Goff are saying, we don't need to draft a quarterback in the first round. We don't even need to draft one high in the second or the third. Wait for the fourth and wait for the late rounds or just sign somebody like Gardner Minshew. We can just deal with a quarterback like that. I don't agree there. I don't agree with that at all. Again, if we can split the difference, Lions fans, and say that Jared Goff can be the starter for this year and possibly next, that's fine. But you absolutely should be looking for a future replacement sooner than later. I totally believe that. I'm not against the possibility of them bringing in a guy like Anthony Richardson. I'm not super high on him. I'm not saying he was amazing in college. However, we're talking about Jared Goff, a guy with limited skill sets, a guy that is not flawless like an Anthony Richardson. He's not flawless. He's not perfect, but he's young. He has tools that you can't teach. He has athleticism that makes players around him better with mobile quarterbacks. And I think it suits a bit more of what their play style is. To me, Jared Goff kind of reminds me of Jimmy G in San Francisco. They have a lot of these fast-paced pieces on their offensive side, but I don't think the quarterback necessarily fits that. They need a guy that can kind of play like a little bit more of a option, spread type offense where you can deceive the defense a little bit more. When you have Jared Goff in the backfield, he's a statue. You're not fooling anybody. You ain't fooling anybody with Jared Goff's legs, with his mobility, with his play action, ride to side. I don't think that's going to happen. So while Jared Goff is a good play action quarterback, he doesn't necessarily have the most accurate deep ball arm consistently. And to me, I just think it's limited in terms of what you're asking for him. And if you're trying to pay a quarterback that type of money, there are different guys that you can be looking at. That's why I don't rule out the option of signing or drafting a guy like Anthony Richardson, paying him his rookie money, letting him sit for a little while because he's only 21 years old. You don't have to play him right away. Let him sit, learn, develop, and grow under this foundation of an offense that was top 5 last season in scoring. Be clear, that wasn't just because of Jared Goff. You had a running game with Jamal Williams that just broke the single season rushing touchdown record set by Barry Sanders. You have DeAndre Swift, who was playing very good when he was healthy and being involved. You had plays where they're running reverses to Amon-Ra St. Brown to convert on third down. You had plays where J-Mo was, used as a scat, where they use him on a reverse and try to get him involved as well. To me, it's not an offense where it's predicated on Goff to be amazing. And that's fine if that's not the case. But if you want to be different and if you want to have some different tools to work with, I think there's some better quarterbacks that you could be looking at. Honestly, I even saw a tweet, and this might get some pushback. If you disagree with me in the comment section, you're more than welcome to talk to me about it. I don't care. There were some trade options about what it would look like possibly to get rid of Jared Goff. Because again, if you keep him, the Lions see some success, you're going to be paying him north of $50 million a year for 5 years. That's a lot of money. And we talked about how that type of money that takes up a team's cap, it holds back their ability to build the teams further down the line. And for me, as they keep solidifying what their foundation looks like, I think you have that already with your defense, with these extra resources that they're going to use in the draft. And I think it's going to set up a quarterback to thrive for the future with the Detroit Lions. For me, I don't think that's Jared Goff. And I've seen trade ideas on what it would look like to get rid of him. And one of those popular names was Lamar Jackson. I know. I wrote a piece on DetroitSportsNation.com. You can check it out yourself, where I pitched the idea of trading and going for him. And one of the ideas that looked suitable for the Lions to do was trading Jared Goff, the number 18 pick, a third for next season, and maybe a third after that. That is well worth trading for Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. If Jared Goff is what the Goffins Army says he is, if he's as elite and as good as you say he is, you're not getting finessed. You're making an even deal. And if you're going to have to pay Lamar Jackson, it's not that much further off than what you would potentially have to pay a Jared Goff anyway. If you're going to have to pay 50 per for a quarterback, I'd rather give it to a guy that won MVP, that I believe has never been set up with the right tools to flourish to what his potential speaks to be able to stand out as an unquestioned elite quarterback. People get so much pushback on Lamar Jackson. Oh, he doesn't play good in the playoffs. I don't agree to none of that. I don't agree to any of that. I think Lamar Jackson is more than capable of being a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I think if you put the right pieces around him to protect him, I think he's a better passer than Jared Goff. He's obviously a better runner and more explosive. He has the, moxie and the swag to fit in on Detroit. And I think he's the leader that this team would need. And I think he would fit in with this player-friendly coaching style that buys into what these players like and what they're about. And you know who else happens to agree with that? The old players do. Jameson Williams literally liked the tweet earlier talking about a possibility of bringing in Lamar Jackson for the Detroit Lions. So it's not just the fans and the media that's saying it, guys. Players are paying attention too. Be very, very clear. I'm not trying to hate on Jared Goff. I'm just not trying to pay him that type of money that everybody else seems so comfortable to do so. I think his window is limited. I really do. I'm not saying he can't play. I just don't think the ceiling for him is as high as other people say it is. I'd be much more comfortable trying to find a quarterback to build for the future on a rookie deal. Or if I'm going to have to overpay for a quarterback, I want it for a guy like Lamar Jackson, whose ceiling is in the elite category of the guys like a Joe Burrow, guys like Justin Herbert. Those guys are going to get paid stupid money, and they deserve it. And I believe Lamar Jackson deserves it too. I think he's just as talented as those guys, if not more, because of what he brings with his legs and his arms. But because of the Ravens' inability to put proper receivers and offensive help around him, you don't see him flourishing the way that he's supposed to. And I think that foundation is already set with the Detroit Lions. A top 5 offensive line, a budding receiver group with a speedster Jameson Williams that would thrive beautifully on deep ball throws from Lamar Jackson. Seeing that they have a running game that would complement Lamar Jackson's rushing style. I don't even think he would have to run as much as he does. He would be able to sit comfortably. You don't have to just rely on him running the football. But if you would also need him to extend the play with his legs, with guys that are very like gadget type players, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's very shifty, I think a guy like Lamar Jackson complements his skill set, because he can move as you move. They're both very good at improvising. I think that fits. I absolutely think that fits. I don't want to pay Jared Goff $50 million a year. If you feel comfortable doing that, that's on you. Me and you stand on different sides of this conversation. But please talk to me in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Do you think the Lions need to lock up Jared Goff for the future right now? Talk to me. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Make sure you like the video as well. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Making our way up to 7,000 subscribers, and we would love to make that happen with your support. Hit us up on our social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above. Search and follow Detroit Sports Nation, and lock in with me as well at I am Eric Vincent. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to some of the hate. I'm sure a lot of y'all not going to agree, and I look forward to seeing if you do agree. I'm looking forward to the comments. I'm looking forward to the feedback and the dialogue, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again right here with another update from the DSN News Desk. Peace.